Fantasy friends.
All right.
Hello,
Hey,
everybody.
This is Jake, and I am dead inside. So, welcome to Fantasy Friends, week 15.
Week 15. Let's lift those spirits. We are thick into the semifinals of the fantasy playoffs. That is why Larry is sad. Larry is going against a strong opponent, a couple strong opponents that feature Josh Allen. And
and Stephon Diggs
Stephon
in the
Diggs.
championship. And their kicker.
Yeah.
Not been great.
Yeah. That's
not been a good
unfortunate.
Experience at all.
That's unfortunate.
And no offense.
Yeah. Fortunately, in the Lake Michigan League.
Okay, yeah. In the Lake Michigan League, I've got a pretty easy matchup, so I'm feeling pretty confident about it, honestly. Like, I've told him that he's got, like, it's a lock for him. I've been lying, though. I'm pretty sure I'm going to probably take him down.
Unless DJ Moore has 200 yards and 3 touchdowns tonight.
That is totally possible, because the other team I'm playing against is DJ Moore, which means he will go off. It is undoubtable, and people who are listening, you probably already know that he had the greatest game of his career. Okay.
That's a good point. People that are listening are, DJ Moore played last night?
Yeah. He had like 130-yard catch, and that was kind of it, so I don't get why they keep hyping him up, to be honest.
Yeah.
But anyway.
As of right now, there was like 8.5 minutes left in the first quarter or something like that, and he has 5 points. So.
So, yeah, I would also like to formally congratulate Aaron Rodgers on, doing something. He probably did something by the end of this game, Seems like it's going well for him. Okay, so it's going to be really funny if the Packers lose this game. So for this week, in honor of me getting my ass beat in my 2 championships, we are going to be talking about the bad beats of the league. We are going through every single week. I'm looking at the worst beat matchup of the week for each week.
Yes.
I'm going to start sharing my screen.
You start with week 1, but I just want to say something real quick. This is also in honor of my locks of the week. I've had a few really bad beats that we won't go into. We're only going to talk about the Lake Michigan League bad beats.
And my ones, obviously, because, this all is really about me.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, fine. Then I'll just bring up mine. The Eagles finally score on a Hail Mary at the end of the game, down 2 touchdowns, and then they go for 2. Cover 6.5. What is that? Okay.
Yeah, well, dude, they knew the fix was in.
And then the Cleveland Browns, and they're down 3 points, and they decide, and it would have been a push. They decide to go backwards like 30 yards and get a safety, and then they lose by 5 at the end of regulation. So then that's another bad.
This is my mom, by the way.
Hi.
Everyone. All right, cool.
Hello.
All right. Yeah, but now on to week 1. Bad beat number 1. And we're going to see, actually, for the first 3 weeks, we have a pretty common champion who is no longer with us, and that would be Thomas, which I guess kind of explains why he's no longer with us.
He got a little tilted.
In week 1, Thomas and Michael had a decent number of players playing on Monday Night Football. And really what happened was Michael had James Conner, who disappointed, which gave Thomas actually a pretty good chance going into the second matchup of Monday Night Football. He needed Noah Fant, Broncos tight end, to score under 12, 11 points. And Noah Fant ended up getting a touchdown and getting 16. So without that one play, Monday Night Football, Thomas would have been okay. Speaking of bad beats on that game, if freaking Steven Gostkowski made a fucking extra point or field goal, that would have helped me out too a lot. So that was a week of pretty bad, and good beats in some.
Yeah, that started the entire. That started much of the fantasy, or not the fantasy, the sports betting craze enamored our household this fall.
Well, basically just me, you, and Lindsay. But yeah.
Hey, that's a
decent percentage. We'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, so on to week 2, and who is it? Oh yeah, it's Thomas. And Jake, why don't you talk about this week 2 one?
I got I was on the good end of this bad beat, so I'll take it. It's not a bad beat in the traditional sense that at the end of the game there was a play that was unlikely that shifted the tides. Instead, it was an afternoon game in which Tyler Higbee scored 25.9 points. He had 3 touchdowns this week, and I ended up winning by 5 points. Now, Tyler Higbee, the rest of the season in every other game has not scored more than 10.4 fantasy points. So he scored 2.5 times his second highest point total. If he scored under 20 points, Thomas would have won. So that's bad beat of week 2.
Mm-hmm. All right, and now let's get on to my game versus Thomas, where he got bad beated. And that one actually came down to Monday night. This one was, I think this was, aside from maybe one other that we have, possibly the worst of worst beats to happen in our league. It was Monday Night Football. Only player left was a kicker, one of those good old-fashioned kick fests. And Justin Tucker needed 9. And there was it was a bad beat for me because there was a false start that pushed back the field goal to a 40-yarder. And I thought 40-yard field goals in our league, because in most league settings, a 40-yard field goal is worth 4 points. So with that 40-yard field goal, Thomas wins the game. I am upset. I am 1-2, and I go to bed. The next day, I wake up, and I see I won. And I was very confused. And then I learned that 40-yard football field goals count for only 3 points. And because of that, I beat Thomas by 0.7 points that week because of that slight scoring difference. So that was a pretty bad beat that made Thomas fall to 0-3.
Now I understand why Thomas was so upset. I kind of gave him a little bit of crap, but you know what, Thomas, for some reason you listened.
He also was an honorable mention for the week 4 bad beat as well. So yeah, Thomas had a rough go of it.
All right. I didn't do a lot of research.
I should probably do the week 4 bad beat because I was part of it. This one was it was actually probably one of the biggest blowouts we have in bad beat segments, but it was a bad beat to be sure. So it was me versus Michael, and really the reason this is such a bad beat was because I ended up having the highest score of the week, and it was really because of 2 people. To start off the week, if anybody remembers, Odell had the only good game he had this season. I mean, to be fair, there was very few games, but Odell had his one insane game, put up over 30 points on that insane end-around touchdown, all of that. And, I was feeling real good after that. I was like, wow, Odell, you came through. You put me over the top. And then suddenly, wait, what? Michael and Kamara start coming back into the game. And I'm, like, getting nervous. I'm sweating. And then I'm like, okay, I need Kittle to get over 11 points to win this week. And then Kittle, coming off of an injury, drops 30 points. Probably one of the best tight end performances. 15 targets, 15 receptions. It was an insane game, the best of his season by far. Obviously, he hasn't had too much of a season, able to play too much. But, so that was just the kind of 2 really disgusting performances going against Michael, and it helped me win by 20.
The next week, he only had 6.4 points, to put that into perspective as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's funny when all these players go off, and actually, I don't find it funny because that comes later on. So I'll just move on to week 5.
Mm-hmm.
All right, week 5, Abby versus Ted.
The battle of the no-win teams at this point.
Oh, yes.
And Ted's first game.
Excuse me. Ted's inaugural game in the Lake Michigan League. Ted did kind of inherit a strong lineup, and one that includes Derrick Henry for sure will be a strong lineup. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised that you went with this one over Lindsay over you.
No, if you don't remember, Ted went into this game Monday Night Football down by about 20-something points.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And Derrick Henry scores, I think, 3, maybe 4 touchdowns, and Ted needs every last one to beat Abby in Monday Night Football. Mine was also, I would like to shout out my bad beat where, who was it? AJ Brown and my nemesis Josh Allen dueled it out, and AJ Brown gets stopped at the 2, which leaves me the loss. But this one was definitely a pretty terrible beat. Derrick Henry, his first great game of the year, and it just happened to go against Abby as she is struggling to get her first win.
Derrick Henry had 18 points in week 5.
Oh, okay. Maybe it wasn't that great a game then, but I thought it was pretty
Sanders
good.
had a good game though.
Okay. Derrick Henry, we'll just say Derrick Henry did enough in Monday night to give Ted the win.
He did above his projection. And
it might be then week 6 where he went off.
Regardless, a 3-point loss on Monday night to a player that goes above and beyond, that's considered a bad beat. And it's not fun to be on the receiving end of those. So sorry, Abby. I'm going to take this one as well.
Yeah,
because
I would say this one probably is a U1. Next 2, probably.
I was watching this with so much intensity.
The duality of football these 2 weeks.
This was pretty good. This was Cardinals Cowboys, correct? Was that how it was?
Yep. Monday Night Football.
And so was it Sunday night or Monday night?
Monday night.
Yeah,
I believe the last snap of the week.
Yes. So yes, Kenyon Drake. I actually was having a decent game. He, for the first time this year, he was doing well. And then the Cardinals get the ball back with the lead, and all they need to do is run the clock out. And Kenyon Drake needs to get, I think it was like 14 yards. He carries the ball once, he gets like 3 yards. Carries the ball again, he gets like 3 yards. And so I'm like, he needs like 10 yards.
So he needed 3 yards. He needed 3 more yards on the last carry.
So he needed 3 yards.
Because I remember I was really rooting for him to get tackled for a loss.
Yeah, if he didn't get these 3 yards, it was over, and the game.
Keep in mind, the Cowboys knew they were running it here. Like, they knew.
Yes.
You know.
And so the snap happens, 3rd and 4, 3 yards to go for the fantasy game. The hole opens up, and Kenyon Drake just sprints for like a 75-yard touchdown. And the entire way, I'm just jumping and screaming, and I end up winning by like 13 points. And Steve Nathan was a little salty. It's okay. He sent a little message in the chat, but you know what? I like to be on the positive side of that one.
That was probably the worst beat of the season. /snap to lose the game. An honorable mention does go to Lindsey, who got Amari Coopered by Jake in I think end of the 4th quarter touchdown. Right before that in garbage time. Yeah. So that was a week of bad beats, to be honest, probably the best bad week of the season.
Yeah, there were 2, because right before the Cardinals got the ball back to run the clock out, Amari Cooper caught the touchdown. So it was one after another.
And when it comes to Jake, it was live by the Cardinals and die by the Cardinals when we get to our next week's bad beat. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that one?
So
Sunday Night Football.
Sunday Night
Arizona,
Football.
Seattle.
Yeah, that was a crazy game.
Up by 20.
All right. So this is the game when I was up by 20, at least 20. I think it was
30 actually. Yeah, you're right.
I was up by 35. I was up by 35 going into this game. Ben has one player left, Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett going into this game he had scored 32 points one week. So I was like, you know what? Anything is possible. But you know what? It's very unlikely. First quarter, touchdown. Second quarter, probably a touchdown. I don't remember. Third quarter, probably a touchdown. Fourth quarter,
also a shit ton of yards. Don't forget that. One of those quarters.
He had 15 catches for 200 yards, and how many touchdowns did he have?
3.
3 touchdowns.
Best wide receiver performance of – no, actually Tyreek beat him. Up till Tyreek, best wide receiver performance there. And Jake, since then, has his average point scored, do you think it's below or above 10 points?
Below.
So basically what happened was Tyler knew Ben needed the win this week. So he basically scored all his points for the rest of the season, well, a lot of them, this week, and then just said I'll pay for it later on as the season goes. And
Yeah.
that ended up being a pretty bad beat
Or
for you.
45 points. I'll never
All right.
forgive Tyler Lockett for that.
Now,
All right.
when we get to week 8, we have this is actually kind of the reverse of the big performance on the end of the game. This week, Monday Night Football, Ted versus Sam, and this one's really not a bad beat because Sam was supposed to win. Sam was supposed to lose by a lot more, and what happened was Ronald Jones had a very, very shaky performance on Monday night, where you just kind of didn't know what was going on, and you were like, "Does Sam actually have a chance?" And I feel like this gave Sam just a little spark of hope before Ronald Jones got like the 20 yards he needed to beat Sam and win Ted the game. And he didn't fumble, which would have also got Sam back in it. So that was, I guess, a pretty bad beat. It wasn't definitely not the worst one of the year, but not ideal to be sure. Anything on Monday night.
It's not fun to lose by 2.5 points on Monday
speaking
night.
of losing on Monday night, why don't we get to the next bad beat? You can talk a bit about this one.
All right. So, damn. I am on the receiving and giving end of a lot of these, as are you. So this one, we were watching the game. Damian Harris was kind of beat up the entire game. I'm doing homework while I'm watching the game because procrastinator over here.
I'm updating you, making sure you're kind of tilting a little.
Yep. But I was like, oh, Damian Harris.
Anytime Damian Harris did anything, I'd make sure you were aware because we're friends like that.
So he's been not doing anything the entire game. And then I think it's to the fourth quarter, and Damian Harris has a 21-yard run out of nowhere. And Sam takes the lead by how much? He took the lead
probably by point something.
0.5 points, actually. So if it was a 15-yard run, I still would be in the lead. And then on that run, he gets hurt, and he gets taken out of the game. That's the end of his night. So after that run, that was so frustrating. Tyler Lockett, I watched it happen, and he ended up beating me by like 11. But Damian Harris getting a 21-yard run after doing nothing the entire game, and then getting hurt immediately, that really that one was
the hurt part was the cherry on top because it was like maybe he could fumble or like maybe like if he got hurt a single play earlier, he would have won. Okay, and I'm gonna be moving locations real quick, so I'm just gonna be walking and talking. But all right, why don't I talk about this next week is another one of those Monday Night Football tragedies. We kind of discussed these a lot, but Allen Robinson, pretty great receiver, scoring a lot of points. I believe actually you gave a bold prediction this week that he'd get outperformed by Lindsey's other wide receivers. He did not, but he did not perform quite enough to give Lindsey the win. Only scoring 7 points, which if anybody's kind of familiar with Tyler Lockett's production, not Allen Robinson's production, not great for him. Not great at all. Right.
That's actually, he only had one game lower than that total.
Yep.
And that was week 2. Other than that, he has not. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times this year he scored more than 10 points.
All right, and now why don't we get to a little bit of a better Monday Night Football performance that Jake, again, very frequent player on these bad beats. So maybe you can talk a little bit about this one. I will say, as a background for this, going into this game, I was talking with Cassie about her chances of winning this week, and I said, you really need this week. And I'm like, okay. And before this Monday night game, and this probably is my fault, I texted her, okay, you're good. You got this week. On to the next one. And you can describe what happens after that.
Well, this was kind of a very quick, like, oh, I have a chance. I needed, 20 points.
I think even more. Did you have any other Rams playing that game?
No.
I think, probably about 20 then.
I needed 20 points, but Robert Woods had not. He'd been remember, it was Tampa Bay, and they had a decent defense at that point. And the very first touchdown of that game, this is also why I was excited because I bet on Robert Woods to score the first touchdown of that game. Robert Woods scores the first touchdown of that game, and I'm like, oh, I have a chance. He ends up getting 15 targets, 12 catches, 130 yards on top of that touchdown. And I end up winning by 3 points. I don't end up winning until a lot later in the game because Robert Woods just keeps carving up the Buccaneers defense, getting a lot more chunk plays, few checkdowns. It was beautiful after the being on the receiving end of a couple Monday night games. Hey, it goes both ways, you know.
Yeah. And Jake, I also would like to say about that week. I believe the beginning of the week you were having a bit of a conundrum about what wide receiver to start between
Oh yeah.
DJ Moore
Okay.
and Robert Woods. And who did I tell you to play?
Okay, so I really wanted to start DJ Moore, but I was like, you know what? It's Robert Woods though. Larry, who should I start? I'm just gonna go with whatever comes out of Larry's mouth. Larry says Robert Woods. DJ Moore on Sunday puts up 18.3 points, and I'm like, damn it, Larry, I blame you for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then
You bully me. You bully me. You verbally abuse me.
Ironically, if I had started DJ Moore, who scored 18.3, I would have lost because then Robert Woods scored 24
Cassie.
points and I
You
won.
deserved it.
Yeah, but he should have been able to read into not starting Jacoby Myers. Like,
Yeah, but yeah. So I got bullied for helping Jake win a week. So that's the moral of this story. And
starting
there's no
Jacoby
justice in this world.
Myers back then, like if you look at it now, that sounds like such a terrible play. But he had just had like 3 huge games.
Kind of reminds me of someone, T.Y. Hilton is someone I guess you
Oh,
could kind
no.
of equate him to.
Yeah, that's true, except the opposite direction.
Anyways, so now we got for our next beat, we have Michael and Ted. One I was very invested in, as me and Michael at this point were competing pretty heavily for the first seed in the good division, as we may call it, in the good division. And so I was kind of watching this game go on, and the Bucks. It looked like Michael was probably going to pull this out. It was still kind of close, but Michael, the momentum was really going Michael's way. I believe Herbert had a good performance, but then starts out with Mike Evans. All he does is catch touchdowns. He catches like a small touchdown. Then Ronald Jones catches a 30-yard touchdown. Then Mike Evans catches a 40-yard touchdown. And it took every single last one of those touchdowns for Michael to lose to Ted, especially since Michael was starting Chris Godwin this week, who got none of those touchdowns. He got yards, he got none of those touchdowns. He got, I think, more targets than Mike Evans. And so I will say I was pretty happy about this beat, but I cannot imagine Michael was.
Ted's highest scoring players that week, both of them were Mike Evans and Ronald Jones.
Mm-hmm. And
the rest of his team did not do as well.
Week 13 was honestly pretty barren of bad beats, but if there was really any, I guess you could say it was Jake had to beat Sam by over 30 points. But part of the reason he won by such a large margin was Sam had first off an incredibly disappointing performance by Gio Bernard, which was pretty not great. He was having some bad performances, and then to top it all off, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. No one really predicted this. This was probably a bad beat in a lot of leagues. Ended up just not playing.
I started him in another league.
Yeah. Apparently he was sick. No one really knew about it. And he just got 0 points. He didn't get a single snap. And it was he was kind of crazy. Maybe if he had scored 40 points, Sam could have won that. So yeah, I guess I'd say that's a pretty bad beat right there.
I'd agree with that.
It's not impossible to get 40.
Tyler Lockett style,
Yeah, and even with that Clyde Edwards-Helaire start for you, you somehow ended up beating me that week, which was not great. You actually ended up dominating me in the other league, but
that's because my team is stacked. I'm the worst team ever.
Oh, we'll see. I'm gonna take you down the consolation bracket. We might even play this week. Anyways, I haven't really checked. Now let's get to the first round of the fantasy playoffs. And again, there was kind of a no bad beat, so I decided to elect myself as being the unselfish person, as being the bad beaten person, because I put up 160 points. I have the best record in the league. Not to brag, I've gotten very lucky. But in this case, I had the one game statement game I could have had over the course of the season would probably have been this week, except for I was on bye. I put up 160 points against no one. And, I guess, you could say that that's kind of the smallest violin, of poor me with the bye.
Yeah.
But I would say I like to complain. So that's really the point of this podcast. So I will do it. So yeah, go
Yeah.
fuck yourselves.
I think the bad beat is less of you being on a bye and more of you not being able to take someone out with that.
Yeah, no, I really wish I did. I really wish I could have played, could have played you earlier. But it's okay. I'm still gonna beat you this week.
Well, you could have played anyone and beaten them last week.
Yeah, I could have.
So you might want to aim for like bigger fish.
Yeah,
than
but I
me.
respect you. You're my fantasy
Ah.
friend.
Oh, that's why we do these podcasts right there.
And speaking of the playoffs, let's get to the bracket. I kind of already sent this in the chat, but just to update you on it, the bracket has been updated with the winners from the past week, and their only perfect person. Let's go from me bragging to the other fantasy friend bragging. The only perfect set of picks so far is Jacob Wilder.
Yes, it was pretty easy, guys. I'm disappointed in all of you. Just kidding. I'm actually looking pretty good coming into this week as well. I'm nervous about Cassie against Sam Nathan, but I still think she has a really good shot.
Waller.
Darren Waller is so good. He is so good.
Oh, but just to give you an update, let's check how Mike Davis is doing so far. Mike Davis is not doing too well. I think he's got 2.1 points. So maybe Cassie does still have some hope in there.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I guess you probably kind of know how some of this is going, and we'll see how it goes as the playoffs go on. But definitely looking pretty interesting. And now on to
He's also starting Alan Lazard.
Hey, respect Lazard.
No, yes, but he has 0 points so
Yeah,
far.
he does have 0 points. He's not doing great. So now let's get to our DraftKings winning lines of the week.
Yes, sir.
All right, and before I'll start with you know how it goes, the underdog, and I'm gonna go with as my underdog Detroit +9, simply because as you've heard, I am not doing too well in my fantasy championships this week, and if that trend continues, I have a lot of Titans, which means the Titans will, in fact, I'm gonna report this breaking news: the Titans will struggle this week. That is a fact. And because of that, I can only assume this means that Detroit will just dominate them, and no Titan will probably get a single yard during this game. So that would mean that they probably will lose by less than 9. All right, on to you, Jake.
All right, my underdog is Chicago playing the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings didn't have a great performance last week against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. On the other hand, the Bears had an amazing offensive showing out of nowhere. Mitch Trubisky is back, baby. I think that it's a little surprising that the Vikings are favored by 3 points here. I think that the Bears defense did a great job of shutting down Dalvin Cook last time they played, and I think that that's going to happen again.
All right, and now let's get to our overdogs, in which case I have Pittsburgh with a pretty big spread, -14.5. And I will say this because they're playing Ryan Finley and the Bengals. The Steelers have been struggling the past 2 weeks, and I did pick them last week, and that was a mistake.
Yeah.
And but I think that this one, I think honestly, any team, if they really tried hard enough, could probably beat the Bengals by over 15 points. I genuinely mean that. And I think Pittsburgh has something to prove this week, so they might go out and try to run up the score. And so because of that, I think that they'll probably win by 15. All right, why don't you get to yours?
I respect it. I respect it, I think, more so in terms of the Bengals not scoring like close to 0 points than I do the Steelers running up the score. But
well, I mean, they both can happen. I'm saying probably like 31-0 or something like that.
Okay. So my overdog is also the opposite of Larry's lock, and that's
our first time ever. Yeah.
Yep. So the Colts are -7.5, and that's appears like a big number, right? But they have been doing really well, like amazing offensively lately. They had a down week against the Texans, which is interesting because the Texans defense is terrible. I think that this week the Colts offense is going to just have a field day. Like you said about the Steelers, they're going to run up the score. And you know what? The Colts defense, on the other hand, I think is good enough to hold Deshaun Watson in check. He held the Texans to 20. They held the Texans to 20 points last time. The separation in points was the difference was 6 points last time, and I think that the Colts underperformed and the Texans defense overperformed that week. So that's why I say that I give it to the Colts.
It's true the Texans did lose by 6, but also Deshaun Watson actually did have them in position to win that game if he didn't fumble at the end. And I think that the Texans, they perform when you like they're inconsistent, but when they perform, they usually keep a lot of games you wouldn't expect competitive. And I think that they had a real bad week last week. But I think that in general, they're still a pretty good team, and that's obviously because they're missing one of the best wide receivers in the league, Brandon Cooks, who will be playing this week. He's a beast.
They're still missing.
Yeah, but he was on juice, so they don't even want him. Bad culture, bad locker room.
Was Will Fuller playing that week or not?
Oh no, he was not.
That was the week after. Okay.
And but yeah, and also the Colts are also missing DeForest Buckner, a big part of their D line. And I think that could actually low-key, one of those big D-line finds right there. But I think that, yeah, Houston's a good enough team where they can keep it within a possession in all likelihood, in my opinion.
Okay.
And on to your lock.
Okay. So I'm just making sure because, okay, never mind. I thought the line may have switched, but it hasn't. Okay, so San Francisco is minus 3.5. And they're playing the Cowboys. The Cowboys had an impressive, I wouldn't call it impressive. Who did they play last week?
The Cowboys, the Bengals. So again, anybody can win by 15.
Exactly. The Cowboys won by 23. That's why the line is so close here, because like, oh, the Cowboys are back to being mediocre. No, the Cowboys still suck, and the 49ers are going to show you that they suck when they beat them by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, either Mostert or Wilson, in my opinion, fantasy watch is probably going to have over 25 points this week. I don't know. They're going to combine for maybe 40.
Or they could, yeah, I agree. Before Mostert was actually going to play, I thought Wilson was going to be the play of the week.
Yeah, I still probably wouldn't have started him, but I would have agreed. I would have
because you have Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, but anybody else?
Yeah, it's pretty nice. Yeah, but so those are our lines of the week, and that is our podcast for the week. We will see you next time.
We'll see you next week.
Consolation and big bracket championship games are going on, and
yes,
yeah, should be a fun time.
Thank you guys.
Au revoir.